Goliath, out in theaters, new French drama directed by Frédéric Tellier. At the beginning, it says that it's based on real events, but the characters and situations are made up. However, even without telling you outright specifically which parts are real and which are not, you can infer quite easily that it talks about Monsanto and the controversies surrounding its use of harmful pesticides. The story follows three main characters who initially have their own storylines but gradually begin to intertwine. Patrick Thameau is an idealistic lawyer who takes a case of a woman whose wife died of cancer, and she is now suing a company producing the pesticide that caused that sickness. France is a woman who is a steadfast PE teacher by day, and by night she gradually becomes an activist as a result of her rage caused by her husband also succumbing to cancer, also caused by pesticides. And finally, Mathias is a young, cynical, but also very successful employee of a massive PR firm, which is lobbying everywhere and all the time on behalf of many companies, but in this film specifically, the pesticide company. So it's a film that's shining a light on a quite important real-life issue and calling out the bullshit of media, of paid-for scientists, corrupt politicians, and of course, the evil corporate entities who chase profits at the expense of people's lives, essentially. In doing so, it becomes a really difficult and frustrating watch, deliberately. Much like The Big Short or Don't Look Up, but in a much less comedic way, you get angry at the things you watch and then more angry upon realizing that the mechanisms shown on screen are precisely what happens, what is going on in real life. And that also coupled with the realization that the evil guys do not ever face the consequences of their actions. So it's definitely not this cheerful, light viewing. On the contrary, it's a fairly depressing film. And while it tells a story that is not just important to get out there to tell, but also engaging, I think the film tells it in an uneven way. What I mean is that for the most part, it's maybe not subtle, but because it isn't subtle, but it's not beating the point into you with a hammer. But there are certain points when it suddenly decides to do exactly that. There's a couple of scenes in the film where it becomes too on the nose, too obvious with the messaging, almost as if it's not respecting the audience to connect the dots. But then again, maybe it's just a desperate cry as a last resort kind of thing. I don't know. There are even two instances where the fourth wall is broken and a character looks directly at the camera and speaks at the camera. There's also kind of a similar dichotomy about the performances. The lead three are all excellent, particularly Emmanuelle Bercot as France, with her absolute rage boiling down within her throughout the entire film. And Pierre Niney as the slimy, evil motherfucker lobbyist who is operating without a shred of remorse. But then again, some of the supporting performances are jarring because they can be shaky, let's put it this way. There were a couple of moments where I felt really that take made its way into the final film. In any case, though, it's nothing spectacularly bad or distracting, and the film manages to balance itself out in the end. I don't think it's great, but it is pretty decent as a movie and very eye-opening as a sort of social commentary piece.